I'm from American Samoa. American Samoa is like the breeding ground for military soldiers. Joining the military almost carries the same principles as my culture. Duty, respect, honor. I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my family. They actually didn't want us to join, but here we are, joining. And we can actually see why they didn't want us to join. She sucks. I was deployed to Afghanistan several times, all over Afghanistan. I was in 08, 09. And an IED that was meant for us blew. And we raced over to help out. The vehicles that were involved ended up to be my battle buddy's vehicle. My battle buddy was stuck inside the vehicle, and there was no way to get him out. There were flames all around it, and we were able to put it out the first time. And then the second time we couldn't. And the second time is when he woke up. And then you had to listen to him scream. The worst sound you ever had to have your soldiers listen to. An inbreak. People have told me, Sergeant AV, you need some help. But it wasn't until I handcuffed my first sergeant. I don't remember doing this, but I patted him down and threw him into a corner. And it wasn't until I came to and asked him, what are you doing there? And he said, you did this to me, asshole. And I was like, oh. That was when I realized, oh, shoot, yeah, okay. I got a problem. PTSD. And that's actually why I shy away from places, because I don't want people to view me as, oh, there's that crazy vet, you know? I'm not crazy, it's just certain things happen to my body I have zero control over. I feel a little used. And I understand that the military has to keep rolling, but I also feel that they should take care of the people that they break. There was a promise that if we gave our all, that they would make sure that we were well taken care of. And I don't feel that. We Are Not Done Yet is collaborative poems from different branches of the military, Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, veterans, active. We were speaking about different traumas, letting everybody know that these things may have happened to us, but we are not done yet. We still have a lot to say, and we still have a lot to do.
AV had this idea to find a way to talk about PTSD in the military, and We're Not Done Yet was his way of bringing his community together.
All of us were going through different phases of dealing with trauma. We all met through SEMA, like doing those writing workshops.
Quick question, so 3 options to think about.
We have a group of veterans and active duty service members that gather regularly to write and share their stories, and through that process came to see overlap between their individual experiences of trauma and decided to write a collaborative poem and turn it into a performance.
Remove the aggression, insert pen.
We wanted to explain that there's so much more to the military story than shooting people. And there's all these things that people deal with, in between like bullets and Band-Aids.
Our lines are going to be, every day I used to believe, on the horizon, and maybe there will never be enough. This poem is not.
The collaborative poem was a bunch of initial prompts that we were to fill in the blank with, and it allowed us to really reach across the spectrum of trauma as a whole.
I used to believe, Avi, you want to start?
I used to believe that there was honor in things that I have done.
These hands have saved and given life, held a newborn child, taken chemo pills, delivered a hot plate of love on a cold day.
On the horizon is the vanishing point. And maybe if I can reach it, all these old voices can go quiet. Maybe I can just stop existing, taking up space in this treacherous, ill-fitting body. On the horizon, I want to find something hopeful.
That was pretty good.
It was amazing.
That's pretty good. On the horizon, the future looks bleak.
Everyone put in their piece of what their struggle was, and all those lines in there mean something different to the person who was saying it and to the rest of us.
These hands are not. These hands have loved and killed, have caused pain.
I'm just me, a woman, a daughter, a writer, a survivor.
Her one strong son, now half hidden and ashamed. She sees me and is helpless.
This land made of eggshells, fragile but good fertilizer, bones and dying dreams of free men, the decay it all grows from. It is my land.
It was really cool. There's a whole lot there. A lot on the canvas, you know? The Super Bowl will fly, the F-16's over, and everybody gets a rush. Service member will be acknowledged, stand up, we'll applaud, and then the game goes on. That's one side of it. The other side that needs to be placed on a stage as large, as bright, are the stories of the effect of war on human beings who take up the call. I met some folks from the Pentagon asking if there was a way that I could get more closely involved. They introduced me to SEMA, who told me that they had this idea to put on a stage reading of works that they had written.
SEMA came in and said Jeffrey Wright was coming, and I was like, okay. He know a lot more stuff than we did in this area.
So just go from these hands are not to first you should know everyone together, please, okay? 1, 2.
These hands are not.
Great. Next.
First, you should know there's no easy way through this.
The ones that are inside the stanza, just say those once.
My mother, too.
Whatever ideas you have, whatever thoughts, concerns you have, please share them because you're really the guiding force behind all of this.
In my head, I picture we're all out there, and then a light shines on whoever is speaking at the time.
We go all over the place, which was the point, from cancer to combat to domestic violence to rape. Something that has like a general thread of what we kind of want to encapsulate everything together, I think would be helpful.
There could be an order to you guys entering the stage as soldiers, and then that kind of falls away.
Someone calling cadence?
Ooh,
Let's not push it.
But even if it were something that were, slightly stylized. 1, 2, 3. Slow down. And then just break it out. Okay, close. That's close. That's close. How's that feel to everyone?
I hate it.
Okay. You hate the lack of structure?
Yes.
The lack of structure.
The breaking it. Formality and following.
Tearing drill apart into something that informal. It just doesn't, my brain can't wrap around it.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means
No, but it is.
my Marine Corps brain, it can't.
Is it when you were marching in, you just didn't like?
So you want us to turn left, and you want us to come forward, and there are specific commands for that. Forward, march. Ready, halt. Left, face. Forward, march. One step. But doing it like just kind of.
We're appropriating it, but we're not even doing it right.
Or do a color guard style, then there would just be two people, like for example, you on our side and then...
Yeah,
and
that are
you just
quietly calling.
Right. Is there a way that you together can figure out how to make that idea work for you?
The free step or the one step and then just...
What are you thinking, JV?
Because
No.
I like the one step and then just walking.
Let's try it. Line up over here. Line up over here. I'll stay right here. All right, the first thing I want you guys to do is take that full step. Left. Left. All right. Ready. Halt. Left. Peace. Oh, I apologize. Center face. One step forward, march. All right, then you guys just take it.
Yes, thank you. That's all the structure I need.
That's great, guys. That's great, guys.
I've swallowed so many parts of myself.
So many glasses of you that you know my name.
I have swallowed so many fucking pills. My blood type is Benson.
I've touched love, tasted faith, then washed it away with duty. I've lost sight of heaven, found solace in hell. In the mirror, I've murdered the angel to make room for the devil. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a part of a group of some sort. Whether it was a bad group of friends or whatever, I wanted to be attached to something. And the military really could provide that for me. I've got 8 rotations, 3 to Iraq and 4 to Afghanistan and 1 somewhere else. Bam! I can't really remember thinking about my family while I was gone. But there was a point when my ex-wife left, taking my daughter. And once that happened, my daughter became my main focus. I noticed differences in myself. Up until that point, I bought into the stigma of any kind of mental illness is a weakness. PTSD was a term that I never liked hearing. I don't like reading it. And I see it all over these medical records and documents that I've been having to go through recently as, you know, I'm getting close to transitioning out. I've gotten myself into a situation that is unbecoming of a soldier. I was driving back from New York, dropping my daughter off, and my ex-fiance had gotten this prescription for Adderall. She said, hey, this helps me stay awake. I didn't know it was gonna cause me to test positive on a drug test. Today, I'll be attending my separation board hearing where they're gonna decide whether to retain me in the military so I can do my medical retirement or separate me. I really want to be retained so I can do the medical retirement or at least honorable discharge so that my daughter gets a GI Bill. See, I told you. Courthouse. Let's get this shit over with. I want to throw my fist through this fucking window right now. their decision was to separate me for general other than honorable conditions. So now I can't get medical retirement.
What really upsets me is that they couldn't have the decency to at least give my daughter the college money. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to give me the medical treatment, but my daughter's college money. So you're telling me that these 12 years and the stuff that I've gone through is not worth my daughter's college money.
This is not the way I imagined to be going out of the military. This is my new reality, spawned from my irrefutable history. I've touched the lives of hundreds, not only those within arm's reach. I've gone farther, beyond my scope, with my scope.
I really felt it. You touch lives with your scope, and then you take lives with that scope. That's real, you know? Once you commit to pulling that trigger, it's the hardest thing in the world. On the other end of that scope, he might have been a good guy, a good kid. She might have been a good woman.
Most Americans don't realize that when we have this theoretical thing of you go to war, you go and fight, that they're asking people to go do these things. We're not going to talk about Happy La La Land, the story of the happy soldier. Like, we're going to talk to you about some real shit.
Mm-hmm. Amy, did you want to do yours?
I really love the heroic, make believe yet believable, nitty gritty, dirty, raunchy stories of my crew's very own one-upper guy. I love the long, endless drives. I love seeing the goats, the occasional camel. I love seeing the kids playing in the dirt. I love the old bearded man. Cell phone in the right hand, waving a high goodbye. With his left hand as he passed by. His fucking left hand. I love this place.
This poem is not who I am. Your flow is so good, but when you kind of struggle with that heroic word, that's something that a lot of veterans struggle with. You know, when they say, oh, you're a hero or this or that. So it was really poignant, honest, and very real.
We have a whole generation of people whose story is their shame and guilt. The whole thing that I see about your story or anybody else's, the fact you're still standing in front of me, that's hope.
There are 4 primary emotions associated with trauma: anger, grief, fear, and shame. Anger, grief, and fear have physical ways that they leave our bodies, but shame requires this community who you show your true self to and who accepts you anyway.
The Army released a news flash, military sexual trauma on the rise. Do they see me now?
I was a clinical laboratory officer in the United States Army. We took care of soldiers and their family members at the hospital. That was a highlight of my career, being able to take care of soldiers. I honor that still today. I am a 100% disabled veteran. I suffer from PTSD, bipolar, traumatic brain injury. My first trauma in the military was early in my career. I was inappropriately touched as I was drawing this guy's blood. And so I go and tell one of the supervisors, and the guy said, do you know this gentleman has served honorably? And do you understand the consequences of what you're saying? I saluted him and walked out. He's telling me that I'm not valued as a soldier, and he told me I wasn't valued as a woman. I've been raped several times since that initial event. That's the only time I ever told. Tell for what? At that moment, I got really hard. Because if I was going to survive, I needed to be hard. My military duty took precedence over motherhood. My children had a drill sergeant. I made sure that they ate, make sure that they had shelter, make sure that they were clothed. There was no nurturer.
The woman that you see today is a lot different than the person I grew up with. There's a lot of things that happened that didn't allow my mom to really be present as much as she wanted to.
My son said, "You're fighting for something that's not fighting for you." He said, "You're willing to die for the military and they won't even help to keep you alive." That was really the moment where I started my healing journey. I remember the first time that I performed on a stage and my children were in the audience. I stood up on that stage and I put it out there. And they didn't look down with shame. They had their heads up and they were like, "That's my mom." And I'm telling you,
these are influenced by feeling silenced by the culture of the military and the way that stories of sexual assault are censored. I go into the VA and 7 times out of 10, the person behind the desk is like, "Well, you know, you have to have a service-connected disability to be seen here." I have a service-connected disability at a pretty high percentage. The primary justification for my disability is PTSD related to a sexual assault. I am then having to, every time I go to receive medical care, put on my sexual assault as like a badge that is why I belong here and how I deserve to get medical care. I worked in the inpatient psychiatric unit. People come there if they are actively suicidal, homicidal, or psychotic. My school that I went to was 2.5 months. You're putting 18-year-old kids with 2.5 months of training into a situation where they might have to be responsible for ensuring someone's safety. It's not about like changing people's lives or healing anyone. It's about keeping government-owned commodities producing until they can't produce anymore. And so you have to advocate for yourself, and that's a really difficult thing to do, particularly with sexual assault, because it is something that eats away at your belief of your own worthiness. And the military will absolutely tell you to suck it up and soldier on. Certain kinds of quiet signify death rather than peace. In your search for peace, try to make sure you are not sitting quietly in death.
Left, right on left, right on left, right on left. It's been 25 years. I joined the Army. I took the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
Would it be appropriate if you guys saluted her when she got there?
As she passes you like, or as she hits the podium.
No, that's good.
Right, when she hits the podium, everybody boom, right? So just like right in here at this paint, that would be an appropriate spot. So, right, so Joe, when you hear that music, right, then begin to move.
This fist is a hammer. The fingers, its claws, trying to unbend and pull out the nails and things you no longer want to hold together. This fist is cumbersome. This fist skin wrap bones so tight the knuckles flush, but this fist can be unfolded.
Remove the aggression, insert the pin. Transplant the ball peen with a ball point until the vice grips of your palms transform into feathers. Know that this fist can wrap around flowers as easily as pistol grips, and that sometimes left hand flowers, right hand pistol grips. I had a good friend of mine from high school who was killed in Ramadi. I watched his mom cry on the front lawn for 2.5 days, and I joined the Marine Corps to try to prevent moms from laying in the front yard. I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, went to Afghanistan, supported Iraq, and was medically retired. Now I'm a visual artist. It's hard to cope and do normal human being stuff if you're wearing your trauma on your sleeve. When I first got back home from Afghanistan, my dad was like, hey, if you ever want to talk, we're here for you. But it never made sense to be like, hey, Dad, I watched people burn to death. Also, can you pass the mashed potatoes? Or like, how do I start this conversation? When you're walking around and all of a sudden, for reasons you can't explain at the time, you feel an emotional response to something, whether it's like, oh, alarm goes off or the rocks crunch the wrong way and it sets something off in your head. And so now you're stuck with this feeling that you can't explain. What's wrong, buddy? You okay? Wanna go sit down, please? Can you relax? So, Aiden, what was it like when you were in Iraq? Aiden. 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 Go around the other way. After I got back from Afghanistan, being a single dad and dealing with a kid with autism and trying to navigate all these things at the same time, the depression became so crippling that like I couldn't get off the couch. I parked my car in the garage and tried to kill myself. There was a doctor. He was like, you, of all people, deserve better quality of life. It was the first time that somebody acknowledged the guilt as what was the biggest injury from Afghanistan. After I get home from therapy, I would make myself do something creative to like process that stuff that I couldn't talk to anybody else about. And it became this process that saved my life. Being a single parent for so long is as much a part of this story. It's not just this linear, like, I'm a combat veteran. It's like, yeah, you're also a human being. And being a human being is hard.
The idea is we've broken this for a minute. We've told this story. That underneath this, we're all that we've shown you. But at the same time, we're service members too. And the idea is to bring that back into the picture.
Center, please.
Really nice.
What can I not do as far as whatever proper stage etiquette is?
If there's something that I feel is diminishing the power of your story, then I'll let you know, yeah? That's the great thing about the theater. When you're telling your story, you tell it the way you want to, right? First, you should know.
First, you should know there is no easy way through this.
These hands are not.
Reach up.
Oh, I'm gonna do the splits. Work is so powerful and beautiful and generous, and I'm really just proud to be with you guys, okay? So, thank you, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, let's get a big hug.
Come in to the top like this, go as far as you can.
These hands were once small.
they're still able to pray.
Internal bleeding that consumes me until all I see is red.
My heart stopped beating. I no longer felt pain.
I love this place.
You guys hang out there for a while.
I don't want to stay here. I want off the stage now.
Yeah, fall out.
On that stage, everybody had their own fears and uncertainties about the situation, but the build up for the performance was not that much different than how we build up for a mission.
All the people in the audience were there because they wanted to hear what these stories were. They wanted to know what the bigger story was.
Everybody knew they were going to be a part of something great, that we were going to be heard, probably for the first time. Because I know that a lot of us have not been heard.
Over, arch. Center, peace. That's your word.
These hands are not.
These hands are not clean.
They are not innocent.
They are not beholden.
They are still able to pray.
This isn't a warrior song. This is a sinner's confession. A need for forgiveness. I've carried emptiness. Loved ones lost and the loss of ones I loved. Souls I've stolen. Their fathers, sons, brothers, mothers and daughters.
Left, right on left, right on left, right on left. 60% of military women have experienced military sexual trauma. Are they noticing me? Do they see me now? One night the phone rang. One of the soldiers was arrested for allegedly raping 3 females. Dear God, how do I, a rape victim, keep a rapist safe?
I have swallowed so many. I have swallowed so many fucking pills that my blood type is benzo. And they keep feeding me more. I can show you anger.
Make a fist wrapped in barbed wire, but these hands won't be able to love until the barbs are pulled out. Let the skin heal. Then in these palms, hold small fists.
Resist the urge to lay silently. Find a loud place, maybe one full of children. Touch something cold or alive.
We were never taught.
That trauma could and would kill our bodies, ravage our lives.
They blew up our FOB. It was a vehicle-borne IED. They mortared a small arms fire, suicide bombers. Our FOB was supposed to be safe as houses. Underneath my boots. Fields designed to destroy my body.
And still, I miss the sand.
Give me a mission.
I love seeing that old bearded man. I love that he dressed up just for us, rocking his brand new black creased or Arabic attire. And his plaid turban really makes his outfit pop. I love how he smiled. Cell phone in his right hand, waving hi or goodbye with his left hand as we pass by. His fucking left hand. In other unimportant news today, 2 800-pound IEDs destroyed 3 vehicles, instantly killing 10 soldiers, 10 sons, 10 brothers, 10 family members, 10 battle buddies, 10 friends. Tomorrow, 4 more will die. The day after, 1 more will die. I love this place.
This
poem is not who I am.
This poem is not a suicide note.
This poem is not a cry for help.
This poem is not my broken pieces.
This poem is love in all its meanings.
And we're not
done yet.
If you had met any of these people before the transition from being shut in to open, the transformation is so great now.
It's not about what I've been through, it's where I am today. And I was standing on that stage, and I was saying that I've been through all this, but I'm not done yet.
It might have been the most beneficial thing that I've done out loud in my life.
These people, they're hope.